Okay, Jake, I need to start today with an apology
To me?
to everyone I have ever spoken to in English, because I have just learned that some of the things I thought were completely normal and polite things to say in English are actually coming across as rude, and I had absolutely no idea.
Oh, this is going to be a very good episode.
Yes, it is going to be a very humbling episode. So, this started when I was having a conversation with a colleague last week, and she said something I disagreed with. And I said, with all due respect, I think you are wrong about that. And I thought I was being so professional, so polite. With all due respect, that sounds respectful, right?
Oh no.
Yes, oh no is right. Because apparently, with all due respect, is one of those phrases that sounds polite on the surface, but is actually one of the most passive-aggressive things you can say in English. And my colleague told me afterwards that it landed really badly, and I felt terrible.
Welcome to one of the most important and most overlooked areas of English communication. The phrases that sound polite, but actually communicate something very different, sometimes dismissive, sometimes condescending, sometimes outright rude. And the reason this matters so much is that most English learners are never told about this. They learn the words, they learn the grammar, but they are never told that certain combinations of perfectly normal words can land completely differently than intended, depending on the context and the tone.
Yes. And I think this is actually one of the most important things about sounding naturally fluent in English, because fluency is not just about saying things correctly, it is about saying things in a way that lands the way you intended them to land.
Exactly. You can be grammatically perfect and socially disastrous at the same time.
Grammatically perfect and socially disastrous. That is my entire early career in English.
Welcome, everyone, to Real Talk Podcast. I'm Jake, and this is Mia, and today we're doing something genuinely important. We are teaching you the phrases that sound polite but are actually rude, the expressions that English learners use every day thinking they are being professional and respectful when they're actually coming across as dismissive, condescending, or outright rude. By the end of this episode, you will never accidentally say the wrong thing again.
Okay, Jake. Start with the one that got me. With all due respect.
With all due respect is perhaps the most famous example of a phrase that sounds polite, but almost always signals the opposite. In theory, it means, I respect you and your position, and I'm about to say something that might challenge what you said. In practice, when most people hear with all due respect, they immediately understand that what follows is going to be a dismissal of everything they just said. It has become a signal for, I'm about to disrespect you very politely.
So the phrase announces itself, like a warning that something rude is coming wrapped in polite words.
Exactly. And the problem is that the phrase has been used sarcastically and passive-aggressively so many times that even when someone uses it genuinely, it still lands badly. The phrase has lost its original meaning through overuse in the wrong context.
So what should I have said instead?
If you genuinely disagree with someone and want to be both honest and respectful, try something like, I see it a little differently, or I have a slightly different take on this, or I wonder if we could consider another angle here. All of these express disagreement without that passive-aggressive warning signal that, with all due respect, sends.
Those all feel so much softer and more genuine. Okay, what is the next one?
No offense, but...
Oh, yes, no offense, but I have said this so many times.
No offense, but is one of the most reliable signals that something offensive is about to follow. The moment you hear no offense, but, your brain immediately prepares for something that will very likely offend you, because nobody says no offense, but before saying something completely harmless. No offense, but I love your shoes. That doesn't happen. No offense, but always precedes something the speaker knows might be hurtful or critical and is hoping the disclaimer will soften it.
Right. No offense, but you could try harder is not softened by the no offense but at all. It just makes the criticism feel slightly sneaky.
Exactly. The disclaimer does not remove the offense. It just signals that the speaker is aware they are about to offend you and is choosing to do it anyway with a polite warning attached.
So, no offense but actually means, I know this might hurt, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Perfectly put. And the alternative is simply to say what you mean without the disclaimer. If you have a genuine concern or observation, say it directly and kindly. I've noticed something that might be worth thinking about, or I wanted to share an observation if you're open to it. These approaches are more honest and more respectful than hiding behind a disclaimer that nobody fools.
Okay, next one. And I think this one will surprise people. Actually.
Oh, yes, actually is a fascinating one because it's a completely innocent word on its own. It just means in fact or in reality. But in conversation, actually is very often used to correct someone or to contradict what they just said. And the way it lands depends enormously on the tone.
Like, if someone says, the meeting is at 3, and I say, actually, it's at 2. That's just a correction, right?
Right, that's a helpful correction with no negative feeling attached. But if someone shares an idea and you say, actually, that's not quite how it works, or actually, I think you will find that, the tone of actually in that context can feel very condescending, like you're talking to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, and you're the one who does. The actually signals that what they said was wrong, and you're here to correct them.
So actually becomes rude when it's used to dismiss or correct in a condescending way.
Right, and the alternative is simply to make your correction feel collaborative rather than superior. I think the time might be slightly different, or I want to double check because I have a different note on that. These say the same thing as actually without the dismissive edge.
Okay, this next one I genuinely did not know was rude until recently. To be honest.
To be honest, or to be frank, or to tell you the truth, these phrases sound like they are introducing genuine sincerity, and sometimes they are. But the problem is that to be honest implies that everything you said before this moment was perhaps not fully honest, like you're signaling, now I'm going to drop the pretense and tell you what I really think.
Oh, so to be honest kind of implies that the rest of the conversation was not fully honest.
Exactly. And in professional settings in particular, to be honest can land as, I've been diplomatic up to this point, but now I'm going to say what I really think, which can feel like everything that came before was filtered or insincere.
So the phrase that's meant to signal sincerity can actually signal the opposite.
Exactly. And the alternative is simply to say what you mean directly without the disclaimer. If your honest opinion is worth sharing, it doesn't need a preamble announcing that it's honest. Just say it clearly, directly, kindly.
Okay, the next one is one that I think young people use a lot without realizing how it lands. Whatever.
Whatever, one of the most dismissive words in the English language when used in disagreement or conflict. Whatever in casual conversation between friends is completely fine. What do you want for dinner? Whatever you decide, that's fine. But whatever as a response to a serious point or disagreement is one of the clearest signals of dismissal and disrespect in English. It says, I don't care enough about what you just said to engage with it further.
Yes, I've received a whatever in an argument before, and it's genuinely one of the most frustrating things to hear.
Because it closes the conversation completely without resolving anything. It doesn't disagree, it doesn't agree, it just dismisses. And dismissal is often more hurtful than open disagreement.
And the alternative in a serious conversation is to stay engaged even when you're frustrated. I need a moment before I respond to that. Or, I hear you, but I see this differently. Both of these keep the conversation open instead of shutting it down.
Exactly. And that willingness to stay in the conversation even when it's uncomfortable is one of the most important communication skills in English or any language.
Okay, next one. Obviously.
Obviously is a tricky one because it sounds like you're just emphasizing that something is clear. But when used in conversation, obviously often implies that what you're saying should already be known to the person you're talking to, which can feel deeply condescending.
Like, obviously, you need to submit the form before the deadline.
The word obviously in that sentence implies the listener should already have known this, that it is so clear and so basic that only someone out of the loop or careless wouldn't already be aware of it. Even if that's not what you mean, the word obviously carries that dismissive weight whenever it is used to explain something to someone.
So obviously can make the listener feel stupid even when that was never the intention.
Exactly. And the alternative is simply to remove obviously entirely. You need to submit the form before the deadline says the same thing without the implied criticism. Or if you want to acknowledge that something is clear, you can say, as you probably know, which is gentler and more collaborative.
Okay, I want to do a few more quickly because there are some really important ones left.
Yes, let's do it.
As I already said, or as I mentioned before.
These phrases are used to refer back to something that was said earlier, but the way they land is almost always as a passive-aggressive reminder that you are repeating yourself because the listener was not paying attention or did not understand the first time. As I already said implies frustration that you have to say it again at all. As I mentioned before, carries the same energy.
I told you this. Why do I need to tell you again?
The as I've mentioned in my previous email is one of the sharpest passive-aggressive tools in the professional email world. The alternative is to just say it again without the reminder that you are repeating yourself, to follow up on our earlier conversation, or just restate the point directly without drawing attention to the fact that it was already said.
Okay, I was just saying.
I was just saying is usually used as a defensive phrase after something you said landed badly. I was just saying means I did not mean for it to be taken seriously, or I did not mean for it to cause any upset. But the effect is usually to dismiss the other person's reaction rather than address it, like their feeling about what you said is the problem rather than what you actually said.
So I was just saying is a way of avoiding accountability for the impact of your words.
Exactly. And the alternative, when something you said landed badly, is to acknowledge it directly. That came out differently than I intended. What I meant was, or I can see that landed badly. Let me try that differently. These take responsibility rather than dismissing the reaction.
Okay, last one. And I think this one will surprise people. You should have.
You should have, as an opener in a conversation about something that went wrong, is one of the fastest ways to put someone on the defensive. You should have checked before sending. You should have asked me first. You should have thought about this more carefully. All of these might be true, but the way they are delivered immediately puts the other person in the position of being wrong and judged, which makes them defensive rather than open to learning from what happened.
So you should have is the grammar of blame rather than the grammar of resolution.
Beautifully put. And the alternative is to focus on what happens next rather than what went wrong. Next time, it might be worth checking first, or going forward, let us make sure we align before sending. These say the same thing without the blame that closes people down.
Okay, before we wrap up, let us do a quick summary of everything we covered today.
Yes, let's do it.
With all due respect. Sounds polite, but signals I'm about to dismiss what you just said.
No offense, bud. Signals I know this will offend you, and I'm saying it anyway.
Actually, can sound condescending when used to correct someone in a superior way.
To be honest, implies everything before this moment was perhaps not fully honest.
Whatever. One of the most dismissive words in English when used in a serious conversation.
Obviously, can make the listener feel stupid even when that was never the intention.
As I already said, or as I mentioned before, passive-aggressive reminder that you are repeating yourself.
I was just saying dismisses the other person's reaction rather than addressing it.
You should have. The grammar of blame rather than the grammar of resolution.
And the overall lesson from today is this. Words are only half of communication. The other half is how those words land. And fluency in English means not just saying things correctly, but saying them in a way that achieves the result you actually want, which is almost always connection, understanding, and being heard clearly and kindly by the person in front of you.
That is so good. Fluency means saying things in a way that achieves the result you actually want. Subscribe to Real Talk Podcast and share this with someone who has ever accidentally said the wrong thing in English, which is all of us at some point.
Drop us a comment with the phrase from today that surprised you the most. We read every single one, and we genuinely love hearing from you.
Take care, everyone. Speak kindly, speak clearly, and speak in a way that the person in front of you actually wants to hear. See you in the next one. Bye.